around the time of the dawn of the Hollywood star, the dawn of consumer culture advertising, we also find a lot of advertising ideology, a lot of courses, books being marketed that basically claim to make you a star, that you can use this sort of magnetism, this godlike power to attract people to you. Books like correspondence courses like 1928's Personal Magnetism argue in their advertisements things like, you, yourself, your manner, your own marvelous personal force, more necessary than good looks, more valuable than money. And what interests me most about this third wave of New Thought is the way in which you become both a commodity and the subject pulling in the commodity. New Thought becomes about focusing on what you want, visualizing success, fostering confidence, so that your very you-ness becomes the heart of who you are. You are inextricable from your own desire. Now, fun fact, this vision of positive thinking as psychic power does in fact continue well into the 20th century in a variety of guises. So for those of you who are familiar with the prosperity gospel, which is very popular particularly in evangelical churches, slightly less than 50% of evangelical churches have or espouse some form of it. It's also extremely, perhaps its most famous contemporary interlocutor or 20th century interlocutor is Norman Vincent Peale, whose Power of Positive Thinking, written in 1952, became an enormous bestseller and really brought New Thought back to the forefront. He was enormously influential both for his readers at the time and for one particular family that who attended his church, who attended his sermons, whose wedding he conducted. That is the Trump family. Norman Vincent Peale did, in fact, conduct one of Donald Trump's weddings. He was the Trump family pastor at Marble Collegiate. And Donald Trump has actually written and spoken publicly about Norman Vincent Peale's effect on him and his influence. So we can see very much this idea of the power of positive thinking, the power of New Thought, isn't just something that happened in the 19th century. It's something that really trickles down into the present. More recently, for those of you who have perhaps come across The Secret, a self-help book that was popularized in the late 20th century, I believe it was 1995 or 2005, by Oprah Winfrey, or indeed this contemporary iteration, Manifesting, they're all kind of the same thing. They're all this idea that the energy of the universe can really be harnessed in accordance to our desires, and that our desires can shape reality. What we want, what we say, what we believe, what we make manifest will make reality fall into line. And maybe 20, 30 years ago, there might have been something pushing back on that. And that's the fact that we do live in a physical world. There are laws, the laws of gravity, that we cannot manifest our way out of. But more and more of us now spend our time in a different world, a different terrain. One in which I would argue manifesting kind of does work, where what we want does affect and shape what we see and what we experience. I'm referring to the internet. One of the things that fascinates me most about this place, if we can call it a place, where more and more of us spend more and more of our time, is that it does, in fact, run on desire. The reality that we see, particularly in the age of the sort of algorithmically captured internet, it is a landscape where what we want doesn't just determine kind of what we can do. It's not just, well, I want to read this book and bam, it's right in front of me. It's a whole system of algorithms and advertisements tailored to figure out what we want and to trick us into wanting more of it, and to reshape the reality around us in accordance with our desires. For example, I have a particular political opinion. I look at a lot of websites and social media accounts that reinforce that particular political opinion, whatever it is. What am I going to see in my suggested for you feed? More of the same. I'm going to see on my YouTube suggested for you videos that either reinforce my priors or perhaps bring me to other political ideas associated with it, or that basically what other people who have looked at this video have also looked at. You find this on the Instagram home feed. You find this certainly on TikTok. This idea that you can be what you want, what you click, what you choose affects what you see in your reality. So whether it's news, whether it's something that a piece of clothing that we like, that we look up on one website that follows us around the internet, if you've ever seen that happen to you, that's not just you, that's actually, it is programmed to do that. Our entire realities do get reshaped and reimagined and customized based on our clicks, based on where we choose to put our attention, based on what we choose to like or upvote or promote. And this brings us back to the religion of remixing, the religion of self-divinization, this idea that everything should kind of revolve around us. And I talk about this in more detail in Strange Rights, but I think it's very necessary to think of this idea of self-divinization as being the native religion of the internet. Because if we are spending, 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, I don't even want to look at my screen time counter, far too much time on the internet in a world that shapes itself to us, conforms itself to us. Why shouldn't our religious life be the same? Why, we have, if our clothing and our websites where we buy our clothing are kind of configured to us, if our social media feeds are configured to us, if our news sites are configured to us, why shouldn't our religious life be configured to us? Why shouldn't we curate it the same way we curate everything else? Well, there's a lot of good reasons, but it's a rhetorical question. And I am fascinated by and increasingly troubled by the way in which these two, this sort of technological reality, this material reality, and this ideological tendency reinforce each other. I've already said, wellness culture now is a $2 trillion industry in the United States. Places like Equinox or SoulCycle that sort of spiritualize the idea of living your best life and encourage it are now more and more, they're wealthier and wealthier, they're capturing more and more of us. Meanwhile, influencer culture is only growing. There was a study of young people, members of Generation Z, where influencer was one of the most desired careers for young people. The idea of being someone with the power to shape that reality, basically through advertising. It feels like the 1928 personal magnetism come to life, that your you-ness can be used as a product to sell other products.